Canadian forces are making the northern frontiers of America almost uninhabitable. General Washington's main army has shrunk to nearly 9,000 men. Those 9,000 men, Continental soldiers, are descendants of the modern United States Army. It is those men who will actually win us the revolution. But here in Virginia, all of our regular troops have been called up to Washington's army or to the Southern campaign. And on May the 12th, 1780, almost 100% of Virginia's regular soldiers were captured at the Siege of Charleston. We have re-raised, very painfully, 3 brand new regiments, with the 4th being trained right in 1781. Those 3 have moved to the battlefront in North Carolina. There are no regular troops remaining in Virginia, and now another British army has invaded Virginia itself. Militiamen have been called up from throughout the state, but realistically, only a single brigade of 1,000 militiamen are able to match the British in combat. Many of these soldiers have served in the regular army already, have served at least 1 or more tours of service. But the majority of these men have never seen combat before. Fortunately, almost 100% of their non-commissioned officers and officers are former regular army soldiers, and they know their business. But 1,000 American soldiers, just about 1 mile from here, are going to attempt to block 2,500 British soldiers. The British soldiers are the first all-volunteer professional army in world history. Even the Romans used conscripts. But the British Redcoat is a long-serving professional soldier. He serves 1 term of service, 21 years. He's good at exactly one thing. He is a professional killer. That's all he really knows how to do. Now, with the war on, the British are now using a short service term, 7 years. But they still have much more experience than we do. They're dressed in red uniforms. Red, not very camouflage, but red is the most expensive color in the world. King George is telling everybody, I can dress my entire army in the most expensive color. Take a look at the French. They're wearing white, cheapest color. Take a look at the Prussians. They're wearing blue, second cheapest color. We're Americans. We're wearing anything that doesn't have a lot of holes in it. You'll see 4 gentlemen heading forward. This is our forward scout line, our picket line. That picket line is moving forward to make contact with the enemy. If you're from this area, heading towards Hopewell, and you reach that point right next to the Garbage Mountain, that's about where they got to. Didn't look like that, by the way. Our main American army is down in front of the YMCA in Petersburg. Their right flank is anchored on the river. Their left flank is anchored on Washington Street. In front of them, about a quarter of a mile away, about 250 to 500 American soldiers are out as a 3rd line. The men that you see in the field in front of you are simulating that line. Single smoothbore muskets. If you're in really good shape, you have a bayonet. The British soldiers all have bayonets. There's a rifleman standing next to the tree. There's a rifleman standing next to the tree. Could you hold your rifle up in the air? That's the long rifle. His range is effectively 300 yards against a man-sized target. It fires with considerable precision. precision, but it's fairly slow to reload. It'll take him 20 to 30 seconds to reload a shot. The musketeers have an effective range of only 100 yards, but they can fire one shot every 12 to 15 seconds. At least 3 shots a minute. The standard training rate for the U.S. Army, British Army, and the French Army is 3 shots a minute, 1 shot every 20 seconds. These men are all armed with 12-gauge shotguns. These are powerful weapons. They're just slow and inaccurate. But you can hear the scout line has made contact. There are no radios. They simply fire to announce they've made contact. In the 18th century, this was known as feeling out the enemy. You have one shot, you feel the enemy, and then you run for it. Remember, no radios. These guys have to tell their commander what they've just seen. If they die, we don't know, and we've lost 4 men. Although the one scout on the end nearest to us is notoriously unreliable. They're doing this so that their fire from 2 sides. They have a classic fire at this point. Remember, we've got 1,000 farmers, shopkeepers, challenging a professional army. They want to show the British they're willing to fight. They don't want to get close enough to kill anybody. Luckily, America is a very big place. The Americans, expecting to lose this battle, have decided to put a little ace up their sleeves. In Colonial Heights, on the top of Baker Hill, just opposite the city of Petersburg, and these guns would be able to cover the withdrawal of the American army. The British, of course, would not be able to see the guns until they came into view. The trouble with coming into view is, now the iron cannonballs can get at you. By the way, these cannons are a little loud. You might want to block your ears. Notice how much space there is between their men. This is known as fighting in the American order. The British don't line up shoulder to shoulder. They fight us like we fight them. The British gun downhill is at a disadvantage. Both the cannons at longer range would use solid iron cannonballs. Firing uphill, they have to go for a direct hit. Firing downhill, the American... Now remember, these are the smallest cannons used. That was the one thing reenactors hate, the dreaded, oops. On command fire, every single weapon misfires. One of the reasons battle casualties are very low. During this battle, 40 to 50 Americans were killed or wounded, 25 to 30 British killed and wounded, and another 50 Americans captured. Not a very high casualty rate, but these weapons are not reliable by modern standards. During this battle, by the way, there was hand-to-hand combat. 12 men, 8 Americans, and 4 British died the old-fashioned way, killed by steel. American artillery during the Revolutionary War has a rather strange command. By orders of General Washington, in the event that the British are about to attack and capture your guns, you are to retreat and abandon the cannon. We have very few trained artillerymen. We have a lot of cannons. The British artillery will fight to the death rather than surrendering their cannon. By the time of the War of 1812 up to today, modern American artillerymen will fight their guns to the death like all the world's artillery. But in the Revolutionary War, Washington, and if you were watching the new series Turn, the best spy master on either side during the war, simply went, I don't have very many mathematically trained mechanical artillerists. I can't afford to lose them on stupidity like heroics. I think the British are using a secret weapon, the chainsaw. I believe the British officer is planning to flank